Good morning, Jen. Good to see you. Good morning, Mary. Mary's joined us online as well as in the back there. Today's talk is on the Cula-Saccaka Sutta, subtitled The Fearless and Independent Dhamma, which is really appropriate, that subtitle, because the sutta itself teaches how important it is to recognize the independence of the Buddha's Dhamma compared to the common beliefs of the Buddha's time, just as appropriate today. And also notice how the Buddha's engaged in debate with a follower of the Jain sect who thinks he's going to, read his words, what he says he's going to do to the Buddha. There is no contemplative or leader or one who claims to be an arahant, a rightly self-awakened one, who would not quiver and break out in sweat when engaged with me in debate. Well, Saccaka is going to find out that that doesn't quite apply to the Buddha. But this was a common way of proving the superiority of your particular teachings. What was if you could win in debate, and then well, this guy must really know what he's talking about. And that tradition has lasted 2,600 years. There's still parts of Mahayana Buddhism that is really ruled by debate. And you've all seen, well, maybe not all of you, but many of you have seen those Buddhist monks that are jumping up and down and screaming and hollering and clapping their hands and doing, you've seen that? Yeah. The idea that, it is, but the idea is that if the person who wins the debate, their particular view is what is considered the Dhamma now, or the Dharma. And the Buddha shows how foolish it is to even place any value in that. But even more importantly, he uses this like he does in every sutta to teach the Dhamma. And very specifically, he teaches using the 5 clinging aggregates as an example. He's teaching insight into the 3 marks of existence. One morning, Venerable Saji, one of the monks of the Buddhist sangha, was in Vasali on his alms round. Saccaka noticed the Saji and recognized him as a follower of Gautama the Contemplative, the Buddha. Master Saji, how does Gautama the Contemplative generally instruct his disciples? Agavasana, he's talking, that's his clan name. Agavasana, Gautama, the rightfully self-awakened one, instructs his disciples in a general way as follows. Form is impermanent, feeling is impermanent, perception is impermanent, mental fabrications are impermanent, consciousness is impermanent. Understanding that that's the 5 clinging aggregates, the Buddha's teaching, or Agavasana, Asaji, is teaching Saccaka that this is the Buddha's teaching. Basically, that your view of yourself in relation to the world creates suffering, and it's a wrong view. All things are impermanent, including, and this is really the most important teaching that Asaji is giving to Saccaka, including your thoughts. Because when it comes down to it, it's our thoughts that we are so enamored with. It's our thoughts that we cling to and create an identity over. And it's our thoughts that we defend, not just to the outer world, but in a conversation we're having to ourselves. In other words, once we've created a fabrication of who we are in relation to the world, we are compulsed and condemned to defend that until we understand the foolishness of it. And the foolishness resides in, no matter how much we believe in what we're telling ourselves, it's all a fabrication and it's all impermanent. There's no substance to it. Being such, being impermanent, form is not self, feelings are not self, perceptions are not self, mental fabrications are not self, and consciousness is not self. Again, the Buddha is just saying that the views you're holding of yourself are anatta. They do not constitute the self. And the Buddha is using that word anatta, a common word, in a completely different, to describe a completely different process, meaning wrong views of self, rather than there's no such thing as a self. All impermanent phenomena is not self. In short, the 5 clinging aggregates are impermanent and so not self. Agavasana, this is the general way that Gautama, the rightly self-awakened one, instructs his disciple. Agavasana is the name of Saccaka's clan. Did I confuse you saying that it's When we're referring to Agavasana, we're referring to Saccaka. What an awful thing to hear, Master Assaji, that Gautama the contemplative teaches this sort of thing. Perhaps someday we could meet with Gautama the contemplative and change his evil view. So again, and this is just, there are people that would say that this current representative of the Buddha is evil. I've had people say that you have an evil view. And of course, everybody is entitled to that view, aren't you? But how would you know unless you actually develop it? A short while later, a group of Licchavis, about 500 in total, were gathered at a meeting hall. Saccaka addressed the group. Come with me to debate Gautama the contemplative. If he takes the same position with me that he does with his followers, I will thrash him about statement by statement. I will amuse myself with Gautama. The Licchavis, knowing both teachers, were mixed as to what to expect. Some thought Saccaka would prevail, some felt the Buddha would prevail. They followed Saccaka out to seek out the Buddha. They found the Buddha in the great forest. After exchanging courteous greeting, Saccaka sat to one side. Some of the Licchavis were respectful to the Buddha, clasping their hands in front of them. Some remained silent. Saccaka addressed the Buddha. I would like to question Master Gautama on a certain point, if you would grant me the favor of an answer. Ask Agavasena as you see fit. In general, what is your instruction to your disciples? Well, I instruct my disciples in this general way. Form is impermanent, feelings are impermanent, perceptions are impermanent, mental fabrications are impermanent, and consciousness is impermanent. Excuse me. As such, and that's the 5 clinging aggregates. As such, form is not self. Feelings are not self. Perceptions are not self. Mental fabrications are not self. And consciousness are not self. Right off the bat, the Buddha is teaching Saccaka, Agavasena, whether he can understand it or not, that everything you know and use to describe a self to yourself and to the world is impermanent. It's false. It's rooted in a wrong view. Now remember, what the Buddha is being asked in a general way, what is your teachings? In a general way, that's his teachings, that our view of ourself in relation to the world around us, the environment we're in, is a wrong view. And it's based on something that's impermanent. And the reason why it's a wrong view is because it is impermanent. We're trying to create a self out of fabrications. Since there's no substance to the underlying motivation, there's no self there, no matter how much we want to insist that this is me. And remember how this relates to dependent origination. From ignorance of the way things are, from ignorance of Four Noble Truths, comes fabrication. Fabrications are manifested moment by moment in these 5 clinging aggregates as form, feeling, perceptions, fabrications, and consciousness, ongoing thinking rooted in ignorance of Four Noble Truths. Is it clear now why the Buddha is taking this tact in this debate? Mm-hmm. Immediately, this is the problem. This is what you need to understand. And this is what, in a general way, what I teach. But he's also saying, in a general way, this is what sets my teaching apart from everything else. All impermanent phenomena are not self. And you could, that statement I just said is true as much today as it was during the Buddha's time. All impermanent phenomena are not self. This, in general, is how I instruct my disciples. A simile occurs to me, Master Gautama. Any seed that grows and spreads is dependent on the earth. In the same way, any individual with form, in connection with form, taking sustenance from form, produces merit or demerit. Notice a strong association that you could say that everything the Buddha said just went over Saccaka's head, because he's insisting that, wait a minute, this form is me. You can't say that it's nothing. It's this form that sustains me. Really what Saccaka is saying, it's my belief in this form that sustains me. But he doesn't realize what he's saying to the Buddha. It's almost like that saying, I think, therefore I am. Because I believe that form, feeling, perceptions, fabrications, and consciousness is me, that makes it me. That's just a fabrication, isn't it? That's the same fabrication that we play on ourselves, simply because this is what I think I am. It is what I is. It is what I is. It is what I am, isn't it? When the Buddha says, no, we all know what constitutes a person. And there's nothing personal about what constitutes a person, is it? There's four elements, the space element and the consciousness, or space property and the consciousness property. That's all. And that's all that any person, any human being can claim to be. You can accomplish things in your life and you can acquire things in your life, but no matter how much you want to pile all that stuff on top of and mask what are six properties, you can't change it, can you? And when we can be at peace with that understanding that this is all that I am, we'll stop trying to make ourselves more than what we are. What is a defining characteristic of an ego? It always wants more, and it's insatiable. Self-referential ego self, I should say. Anatta, yes.
Okay.
This is going to be a great question because they're always good.
If it just dawned on me that the Buddha believed in rebirth. So to some extent, isn't there permanence in rebirth?
No, because even
somebody
that
could continue to be reborn.
Yes, and that you bring up such an important point. The understanding, I knew this was going to be a great question, but it's going to be it's tough to answer. The Buddha never discounted rebirth and even reincarnation. I don't want to get into the differences, but there are some subtle differences. He simply said that that's to try to manipulate a better birth is rooted in fabrication. Because what is it? Excuse me. If I'm doing anything in this moment right now to improve my experience 300 lifetimes in the future, isn't that rooted in a fabrication? It's a speculation. There's no basis in fact for me saying I can do something now to affect a life in the future. Maybe it's true, but we don't know it. The Buddha taught something that's entirely practical and only deal with what you can directly experience. That's reality, isn't it? It's just as foolish to think that I can manipulate the next moment as thinking I can manipulate the next lifetime. It's the same process of fabrications unfolding, isn't it? And that's the important teaching on rebirth. It's not so much what I might be born as in a future lifetime. It's what am I going to give birth to in the next moment? And that relates directly to a well-concentrated mind supporting the refined mindfulness of the Eightfold Path to see things clearly as they're occurring. As life unfolds, as my life unfolds, to have my experience framed by a well-concentrated mind framed by the Eightfold Path. And then each moment that I give birth to is a moment rooted in wisdom and inclined towards awakening.
And then you won't be reborn.
And well, the ultimate teaching, and it's not something the Buddha overemphasize, but the underlying point of all this is to cease creating the conditions internally that would give birth to another moment rooted in ignorance for me, not for anybody else. The problem is me, isn't it? Another way of saying this is that the Buddha teaches a Dhamma that is the ultimate in self-responsibility. That's what he teaches. Everything we experience is directly related to what I'm holding in mind. Not the random events, not earthquakes, floods, sickness, aging, and death. But my experience of earthquakes, floods, sickness, aging, and death is up to me. Because all that I am constituted of is of these six properties, if I'm using correct English. Everything else is an embellishment, isn't it? And since I cannot change that, why don't I just live my life in peace and happiness rather than trying to do something that can't be done anyway, meaning promote a wrong view of self, promote and defend five clinging aggregates. So did I answer your question?
Yeah.
And it's such a great question because
besides, rebirth is just another transmutation of the self.
There's no, when you really understand the way that Buddha understood time and matter, there really is no difference between this moment, me dying, 500 years later, I come back as something. And in some beliefs, I might come back as a chicken, or the Buddha didn't even get into that, like what you might come back as. But the process from this moment to 500 years in the future is the same as this moment into the next moment. And it's my experience. We don't, from one moment to the next, every human being changes. In other words, from this moment to the next moment, I am a different person. We don't perceive that change at its most basic, and so we don't see it. But we know that there's millions of cells that come into existence and die off every moment. So just in a practical way, this is different than it was when it walked in here. Mm-hmm. And so what's continuing within me? If my thinking is the same, if I'm holding on to false views, then in this moment, the only thing I can give birth to is another moment that's reflected from that false view, isn't it? But if my thinking is framed by the Eightfold Path, then I'm giving birth to a moment that is rooted in reality. And that is the whole Dhamma right there at the point of contact. As my life is unfolding, if I am well concentrated and I understand what's occurring, this moment will be a moment of peace. It'll be a meaningful moment. I won't have to look for meaning in things that I acquire or things that make me feel good. Each moment is meaningful simply because I'm here. There doesn't need to be anything added to that.
So regardless of how you want to interpret an origination, if it's framed within the original ignorance, whether it's that moment or if you believe in rebirth, if you don't frame it within the Eightfold Path, it's just gonna cycle through again.
Yep. Pardon me?
It's just more permanent.
Yeah, it is. And again, the Buddha is speaking directly to his understanding, not trying to go with the flow. It was a common belief then and still today of future lives. And speculating on how that just might be and how I can manipulate it is a fabrication, isn't it? Again, it's not whether it's ultimately true or not. I can worry myself over the next week about something that's going to happen a week from now. As an example, maybe it's a doctor's exam, and I think this is going to be the worst, and I tend to think that way, that I'm going to get the worst news of my life, and so I spend a week of my life in that worry, out of my body, stuck on next week at the doctor's office. I mean, and we do this, don't we? That's real. It's not. I'm not imagining that. And the Buddha wouldn't, if using that as an example, isn't imagining something. It's a practical example of what we do to ourselves. Rather than stay present with life as life occurs, not be so enamored with the idea that I have to live forever, for one thing. I mean, that's what motivates that. And understand and not take sickness, aging, and death in a personal way. In which case, the result might be the same. I might still get a bad diagnosis, but I will have lived up another week of my life in peace. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Would you all agree that it makes sense to not be stuck in that type of self-referential view for a week?
You can't fabricate your way out of bad news.
You can't, but you might do other things. Like some people might think that burning a pound of sage every day is going to save me from a bad diagnosis, or enough rosaries. Again, I'm not putting down what people do, but it's that constant distraction that creates the ongoing tension where the Buddha says, don't take any of it personal. I better get back to the sutta. I got to go back a little bit just to put this back in context. A simile occurs to me, Master Gautama. Any seed that grows and spreads is dependent on the earth. In the same way, any individual with form, in connection with form, taking sustenance from form, produces merit or demerit. Any individual with feelings, taking sustenance from feelings, produces merit or demerit. Any individual with perceptions, and he says the same thing, any individual with fabrications, or any individual with consciousness produces merit or demerit. Meaning that there's this, there's kind of a zero-sum game you're always playing. And it has to do with your behavior, but how your behavior will manipulate the future, rather than recognize that your behavior is a useful tool for recognizing what you're holding in mind. In other words, don't be a pious and good person just because you'll get a reward. Be a human being because that's who you are. When you depersonalize who you are, there's no aggressiveness left. There's no hate. There's no possible way that you could hurt another human being. And that's a natural occurrence of understanding, of wisdom. Not trying to be a good person so I don't burn in hell, or et cetera, or I might get preferential treatment from other Buddhist gods. Agavasena, are you saying form is myself, feeling is myself, perception is myself, fabrications are myself, and consciousness is myself? Yes, Master Gautama, I'm saying just that. Let's skip over. Oh, I missed something. And everyone I came through believes just as I said. Saccaka says that to the Buddha. I just didn't repeat the same thing over again. Very well. I will cross-question you on your statements. What do you think, Agavasena? Would a noble king wield power in their domain to execute those that deserve execution, or to banish those that deserve banishment, or to tax or fine those that deserve to be taxed or fined? Is such a noble king in control of his domain? Yes, Master Gautama, a noble king would be able to control his domain in this manner. Well, Agavasena, when you say that form is self, do you have power over that form? Can you have your form be any different than it is? Saccaka could not answer and remain silent. See where the Buddha's going here. If you can't control it, how could you call it a self? How could you own it? How could it be you? Again, the Buddha asks. Saccaka, well, Agavasena, when you say that form is self, do you have power over that form? Can you have your form be anything different than it is? Again, Saccaka could not answer. Agavasena, do you have engaged me in this debate? It would be to your detriment to not answer. I will ask one more time. When you say that form is self, do you have the power over that form? Can you have your form be any different than it is? Finally, he relents. No, Master Gautama. Well, listen closely to what I am saying, Agavasena, and answer only after you have paid attention. Your answer is inconsistent with your statements. You also said that feelings are self, that perceptions are self, that fabrications are self, and that consciousness is self. Can your feelings be different than as they occur? Can your perceptions or your fabrications or your consciousness be any different than as they occur? And that's an important teaching on letting go of all regret, because once something's occurred, it's occurred, hasn't it? I can learn from it, but I can't change it. So why regret it? There's a difference between regret and useful shame, isn't there? Knowing that there's something here in my behavior that I need to change.
What people do is they try to manipulate what people see about that regret.
Yes.
They manipulate it's almost like his answer should have been, well, no, but I'm manipulating my form. I'm manipulating these four aggregates.
Yeah, if he was honest enough about that.
Because you can't control him, but I can manipulate it so he thinks that my regret is this.
Yeah. And again, what a great description. It's the ultimate lack of self-responsibility, isn't it? Which is what the Buddha teaches. And so, and we don't want anybody, nobody wants to know that they're the magician behind the curtain. We don't want anybody to find out. Even though at some level we know that everybody else is doing the same thing. But because we're so self-identified with this, I don't want anybody to know the emperor doesn't have any clothes.
It's
the most important thing in our
life. I don't even care she's doing it because I'm so tied up in
that's right.
manipulation of what I'm doing.
Exactly.
That I'm not even imagining that, it's just
that I have uncontrolled top pantyhose and now you can't see my belly.
exactly. It doesn't even occur to me because I'm so selfish.
That's right. That's right. And because you don't understand yourself and you cannot see another person, what are we living in?
Yeah.
We're living in a fabricated world that is prone to the three defilements: greed, aversion, and deluded thinking. What do we see all the time out in the world? What's the one thing that we wish wasn't out there? Greed, aversion, and deluded thinking. How can we stop it? End conflict in ourselves. We can't stop it by hoping to end conflict out in the world. Why? Because They're conflicted. The world is conflicted. In the Loka-Sutta, the world is a flame with what? A flame with the fires of passion, the fires of eye-making. And here the Buddha is teaching Agapasina, Saccaka, exactly the same thing. Better continue. Can any of those aspects, form, feeling, perceptions, fabrications, or consciousness, be any different than they occur? No, Master Gautama. Listen closely to what I'm saying, Agapasana, and answer only after you have paid attention. Paid attention. Don't just argue with me anymore. No, but really, the Buddha's calling Agapasana out and say, listen, your mind is cloudy. Pay attention to what I'm saying and answer to what I'm saying, not to what your beliefs are. Stop engaging in debate and learn something. Really, that's what he's saying.
Pretty much.
I might say it a different way, but shut up. And answer only after you have paid attention. Your answer is inconsistent with your statements. Is form impermanent or constant? He's making him answer. It's impermanent, Master. And is that which is impermanent peaceful or stressful? It's stressful, Master Gautama. Likewise, are feelings, perceptions, fabrications, or consciousness impermanent or constant? They are all impermanent, Master Gautama. And is that which is impermanent easeful or stressful? It's always stressful, Master. And is it fitting to regard what is inconstant, stressful, subject to change as this is mine, this is myself, this is what I am? No, it is not, Master Gautama. So what do you think, Agapasana? Excuse me. When one holds to stress, this is how the Buddha, often describes how we attach ourselves and join with stress. When one holds to stress, is attached to stress, and thinks of stress as this is mine, this is myself, this is what I am, would he understand stress or be able to free himself of stress? No, Master Gautama. Again, the Buddha, that's at that point of contact with stress is where we practice the Dhamma, isn't it? And that's what he's teaching Agapasana. It's not conceptual, it's not abstract, it's right here, it's right now. Agapasana, don't you hold to stress? Aren't you attached to stress? And don't you think of stress as this is mine, this is myself, this is what I am? Don't we all do that? We join with our stress, don't we? We identify ourselves to a large percentage in relation to the stress in our lives, don't we? Whether we realize it or not, it's the stressors, positive and negative. Stress isn't always experienced as painful. Anything that's distracting us from the moment is stressful, including getting my needs satisfied right now. Drinking a bottle of vodka from the outside looked like it calmed me down. It didn't. In fact, it left me more agitated than it could possibly. That's the problem with addiction. You just get that agitation inside builds and builds and builds. You never get rid of it. There's no solution to stress save understanding. There's no solution to suffering save understanding that we have joined with it. And the solution is to extricate ourselves, to let go of those fabricated views that hold us to our suffering. Yes, Master Gautama, please tell me how a disciple of Master Gautama develops this instruction to end all doubt, to end all questions, to be fearless and independent of others and their teachings. So Saccaka finally got that he's been in this somewhat noble search for understanding, but he's looking in the wrong place. He's identified with the Jain sect, and he's now realizing that the Jains are teaching something. And during the time, if you ask somebody, what's the difference between a Jain and what the Buddha's teaching, most people, because they didn't look at it, would say they're the same teachings. You can just do it all the same way. Saccaka now realizes that what he learned is something that is completely different and contradictory to what the Buddha teaches. Agapasana, when a disciple of mine develops right view through the Eightfold Path, they then see any form, past, present, or future, internal or external, common or sublime, near or far, clearly as form has come to be. This is not me, this is not mine, this is not myself, this is not what I am. Through right view, developed through the Eightfold Path. Through right view, my disciples know that any feeling, perception, mental fabrication, or consciousness, past, present, or future, internal or external, common or sublime, near or far, clearly as form has come to be. This is not me, this is not mine, this is not myself, this is not what I am. Agavasana, this is how my disciples carry my message and my instruction to end all doubt, to end all questions, to be fearless and independent of others and their teachings. So again, when you read a line like that, it's hard to understand how this could have gotten so confused and start substituting other paths for the Eightfold Path. But again, this is just another sutta where the Buddha emphasizes it's this path and it's not anything else. And it's this instruction to end all doubt, to end all questions, to be fearless and independent of others and their teachings. Again, the Buddha is emphasizing that if you're going to practice his Dhamma, to practice his Dhamma. Don't adapt, accommodate, or embellish it at all. Master Gautama, how does one complete the path to end all defilements, to lay down the burden, and we're talking about the burden of self or wrong views, and the fetter of becoming further ignorant? How does one become an arahant? How does one become released through right understanding? How does one become released through right understanding? Well, let's see. Agavasana, when anyone knows through right view, knows that form, feeling, perceptions, fabrications, or consciousness, whether past, present, future, internal, external, the this or that is referring to the actual experience of ignorance or the speculated establishment of a self in a non-physical realm. Internal or external, common or sublime, that this is not me, this is not mine, this is not myself, this is not what I am. Through lack of clinging to ignorant views as sustenance, they are released. Through their right effort, they have ended the defilements, they've laid down the burden and the fetter of becoming. They've completed the path and are released through right understanding. Released, they are endowed with unsurpassed right view, meaning they know it. They understand that their view has developed. They see things clearly. Right view, unsurpassed practice, and unsurpassed release. Release, they honor and respect the Tathagata, the Buddha, in this manner. The Buddha teaches the Dhamma for awakening to Four Noble Truths. The Buddha teaches the Dhamma to develop restraint. The Buddha teaches the Dhamma to develop tranquility. The Buddha teaches the Dhamma for ending samsara, which is just wandering around in ignorance. The Buddha teaches the Dhamma for total unbinding. Saccaka then said to the Buddha, "It is we, Master Gautama, who are insolent, we who are reckless, in that we construed that Master Gautama could be attacked statement by statement. May Master Gautama, together with a community of monks, acquiesce to my offer of tomorrow's meal." The Buddha acknowledged Saccaka with his silence. The next day, a lavish meal was prepared by the Licchavis for the Buddha and his sangha. Saccaka himself served the Buddha, and upon completion of the meal said, "Master Gautama, may the merits of this gift be exclusively for the happiness of the donors." Listen to this answer. Agavasana, what has been given to you, not without passions, not without aversions, not without delusion, that will be for the donors. Whatever has come to me without passion, without aversion, without delusion, free of ignorant view, that will be for you. The Buddha is teaching that in order to present something of true value, a true Dhamma, it has to come through someone who understands what it is. And there's a similar sutta that I'll be giving in 2 weeks, I think, if I finish the contextual edits, called the Abhaya Sutta. Yeah, I remember it, which is similar in this vein, that if you really care, now he's teaching Saccaka now, who he knows is a sincere seeker and is doing it for all the right reasons. He's just looking in the wrong place. He's now telling Saccaka, if you really care about people, if you want to do good here, you'll be a conduit through the Dhamma, and how to do it is through the Eightfold Path. That's the end of today's talk. Thank you. Any questions directly on this?
I like how it turned into we were insulted versus him being the main
Yeah.
troublemaker, and then it was we.
Yeah. But he also understood that he was part of a larger group that was equally deluded, didn't he?
But he also, and at the last minute, he sets his whole notion of merit right on his head.
Yeah.
Because he was still stuck in this, like, oh yeah, this is for our merit. If we give all this.
Yeah, and I think of from the Buddhist standpoint, because I thought about this. I can't help but think this way. He knows that he's teaching someone of significance. In other words, he's not just a solitary practitioner. That this gentleman is going to go out and now do just what he did. He knows the significance of it, but he didn't get into the weeds at all, did he? He said, "This is what my Dhamma is. It's gaining insight into the three marks of existence and understanding the nature of suffering, and we do that through the Eightfold Path." This sutta is a complete teaching, isn't it? In that it points us to the problem, and it gives us a solution, the Eightfold Path. And now Saccaka can go out and do just what the Buddha hoped he would do by understanding this. Remarkable. Let's go around the room. Greg, good to see you.
Good to see you, John.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Not much to say.
Glad you're here.
Good to be here.
Lorna, good to see you. Do you like the sutta a little better?
No. Saccaka said to the Buddha that, that you draw sustenance from your food. And to me, that seems perfectly fine.
It seems reasonable.
I think there's kind of like a crossover there where, without the drawing sustenance from food, that's kind of like the end of the road.
Really what he's saying, though, is that I am sustained by my form, that the form is sustaining him.
I think he's implying that because he's sustained by the food is made.
Yeah, well, and the form is. If it wasn't, he has so strongly identified with the form. Again, this is the root problem, isn't it? Saccaka believes this form is what's making me, form filling the whole thing. And the Buddha's teaching, why would you identify with anything that is impermanent? And how could you call it a self? Look at it this way, Lorna, in Dhamma terms, not so much in who might take.
I know what the correct answer is, but when you have the alternative argument put to you, that also makes sense.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I know what the correct. I'm not confused. I know what the correct answer is, but when you have that argument put to you, you kind of think, yeah.
and that's and the Buddha would teach what he did here is you can identify it. You could even say it's reasonable to identify with the five clinging aggregates to a mind that doesn't understand Four Noble Truths, and it is. That's why we do it. But someone who understands the true nature of human life will no longer identify with the five clinging aggregates. It's simply seen as what it is, these six properties.
I know, but we're using the five clinging aggregates as sustenance to maintain deluded thinking. So
Yes.
I can see that argument. But when it comes to food and sustaining the body through food, which is what he said, I think that's perfectly reasonable. But it's not.
If all you're doing is sustaining the body, that's perfectly reasonable. But if you're sustaining the body in order to be more attached to the body, then you're going off the rails.
Got you.
And again, that's it. So even food, the Buddha teaches that every human being needs four things. It doesn't say that we have no needs at all. We're nothing, but it's also practical teaching. Every human being needs food, shelter, medicine, and clothing. But we don't identify with it just because we need it. When we do, when I need to have the biggest steak every day to prove how successful I am to myself, and the finest clothes and the biggest house, and an endless supply of morphine, if that's what I'm into, what am I? Then that becomes my life, doesn't it? But through understanding, I simply go and eat a healthy meal and wear appropriate clothes and have a place that keeps the bugs away, but none of it is personal. And I don't need you to know, but even more importantly, I don't need to keep playing that story in my head that proves it. Maybe, I don't know if this is going to be, I'm going to try it. For years and years and years, and those of you that ever had addictions, you might understand this. I don't know if this will be appropriate to those that haven't. I drank like a bum. I didn't care what it was. Most of it was cheap vodka. I drank solely for the effect. Always. I very, very rarely had a drink with someone else. I didn't drink in bars because all I wanted wasn't sociable. I just want to get drunk. But I always had this picture in my mind as I'm sucking on a vodka bottle that I'm a gentleman having a cocktail. And I always believed it, no matter how, my addiction went about as far as you can go without killing yourself. But to the end, I believed that I was entitled to have a drink like a gentleman, even though I was swallowing whole bottles of vodka. You don't know a lot from your own experience. That was my belief. And that belief kept me going for a long time, that I was okay because I was just having a cocktail or two. And we do that all the time. We create images of ourselves. They cloud what's actually occurring. Most people don't take it to that extreme, but many people do. And we live in that fabricated bubble, but there's no reality to it, is there? And so it allows us to keep suffering going by thinking that we're doing something other than what we're doing. On a much more small scale, we all do it because of the compulsive / active need to maintain wrong views of self. That's why it's so difficult. That's why it sounds reasonable to feed the form, because it's me. Or it's reasonable just to take care of these 6 properties. And the motive behind that would be, so I got another moment to put towards awakening. What's more important? Did I call on you yet, or did you just give me an answer? I did call on you. So much for a well-concentrated mind. Thank you. Anthony, good to see you.
Good morning. I don't have anything to say, so I'll sit here in noble silence. I do enjoy it.
I'm glad you're here. Ron, good to see you. Rare Saturday.
Yeah.
Good job you're here. You helped me a lot there.
Yeah. The difference for me in sustaining the body is I can eat a certain way to look better, or I can eat a certain way that I don't die of a heart attack 5 years from now. And there's a difference. It may have the same effect, but the intention behind it is what makes me more or less attached to the form.
Yep. That intention, excuse me. In that way, right intention governs our behavior when it is truly right intent. Right intention is the intention to recognize and abandon craving and clinging. And so in this moment, you can apply it right there at the point of needing to feed this body and keep it going. Am I doing it in some way just for sensual pleasure? Or do I understand what I'm doing? And even in that way, as you develop a more realistic view of yourself, you'll naturally eat better. You will. At least I have.
But the decisions you make for that are really minute to minute almost.
Well, because you're present, So yeah, thank you, Jen. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Yeah, I wish I had.
Glad you're here. David, good to see you.
Glad to be here.
Mary, good to see you. How are you?
With all his sutras, I find that they're all complete teachings.
Yeah.
None of them are just teaching. He's teaching the whole ball of wax from a different angle. And that's what's so wonderful about all of this.
Thank you. And you've developed the context, the overarching context to see that, because they all are focused on that one thing. Maybe you could say the one thing, the 3 marks of existence. Glad you're here. Becky, good to see you.
Oh, it's so good to be here. I just would parrot what Mary said. Now that I have the context, you can see that every sutta is a complete teaching.
Yeah.
But what I really enjoy about it is you have the opportunity to really engage every time with kind of the same principles, which helps you be able to see it more clearly each time, and to work and practice toward living it each time, because as we've all said, it's very simple, but it's very difficult.
Thank you, Becky. It's remarkable what you said too. You wouldn't have said that 6 months ago, because you wouldn't even have understood what you just said.
That's right.
And that really reflects on what Mary, we've all said too. But this is what it means to develop the overarching context and know exactly how to apply this. And so we're all understanding that despite all these teachings, it's a matter of integrating the Eightfold Path. Nick, good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. Okay. How do you plan?
How do I plan?
How do I plan? How do I make a plan? And from what I understand now,
Great question.
I want to go take a trip to see my son and his family in Denver. I go online. I get tickets for the trip. I pack my bags, to do everything, getting ready for the trip. Okay. The trip is maybe a month away. What's the difference between that, making a plan, and thinking about the plan? Well, the difference is that I shouldn't worry about it, because a guided plan, it will happen or it may not happen. The flight may be canceled, something. What is that it's impermanent, and I shouldn't be worrying about it. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. That's all I can do. Does that make sense?
Nick, you can go.
Easy to say, hard to
Very hard.
Zero to
It's
enlightenment.
just that.
Very hard.
There's a significant difference between buying a ticket today because I know I'll need it in a month, than spend the next month worrying about all those things. Is the plane going to, terrorists, fly, whatever it's going to be. So again, the Buddha taught something very, very entirely practical. And so we have the mindfulness to buy a ticket for a flight in a month, but we don't worry about it. And if something happens, flight gets canceled, we move into the next moment with a calm and peaceful mind. And it's just that way. So the Buddha teaches a way to be fully mindful of life as our life occurs, to make the appropriate plans and decisions that we need to make in the moment without the need to worry about every little thing, without the need for me to interject what I need or am concerned about in this moment. Another way of saying that is we live in a world free of any entanglements, anything that would distract me from my own peace of mind. We develop a conflict-free mind. And so we live in a conflicted world with a peaceful mind. Really remarkable. And it's difficult, but it's simple and direct. The only real difficulty is implementing it, isn't it? And even that isn't all that difficult. You got to put in a little bit of right effort, but that's part of the path. Any other questions about today's talk?
I just have one more comment.
Please.
I just like, just for whatever you were saying about it's a complete teaching, all of these suttas, it's like, well, how about this situation where this person's struggling? the space where they're struggling is a space where we probably all struggled. And then the Buddha comes in and says, this is how you apply the Dhamma in this situation. And kind of walking through that over and over and over again, like in all the different ways. Like he's hit so many things that I feel like it's like any problem, any issue you're having, even if you're struggling, you could find a sutta that probably applies to
Absolutely.
with and be like, oh, that's how you apply the Dhamma.
It depends who's the audience. Is it the buyer,
Sure.
worshippers, or this group?
Yep.
So, or it's an individual by themselves. You can see how he's not going to shy away from this debate because that's the energy that was coming at him. So therefore, that was the situation he was in. And there were 500 people that were mixed view, and he took advantage of the audience. He was able to convince just Saka, but I'm sure a portion of those people that were sitting in the audience.
Oh yeah, and again, the Buddha spent his life teaching the Dhamma, and so his whole life was an opportunity to teach the Dhamma. And again, a lot of the suttas you can read into it and see the situation that the Buddha's responding to, and it is remarkable. And Jen's right; just about everything that can be addressed, or not just about everything that can be addressed within the Dhamma, the Buddha addressed. Which also is an important teaching. The Buddha's Dhamma isn't meant to explain everything, every phenomenon, because that's just that's a self-referential ego self that wants an answer for, what's on the other side of the moon. I need to know that before I can awaken. All of that is impermanent. All of that is speculative. What's occurring, the only thing we can know and experience is right here, right now. And so the Buddha taught a way to unite a mind and a body and keep it there, framed by the Eightfold Path. And then that becomes our life. It's remarkable. And it works. Mary, almost forgot about you, Mary. Say hello anyway. Mary.
I will. I love this teaching, and I'm good. I love this teaching, and I will take it forward into my everyday life and all my everyday situations. There was a lot of good practical stuff here. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary. Glad you joined us. I think we'll get by a sutta because it's so similar to this on next Saturday. But I also have to teach it on Tuesday because Matt's the one that pointed that out to me. Say, hey, what about this sutta? But it's similar, but it's also an interesting sutta where the Buddha teaches that there's 4 possible answers to any question, meaning the right way to answer in certain situations. And it's fascinating for that and useful for that too. All right, let's finish with metta as we always do. So find your relaxed meditation posture and take a moment to become mindful of your in-breath and your out-breath. And these are the Buddha's words on metta from the Karaniya Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings. Radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will. Whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Thank you all for a wonderful class this morning. Peace.